Can they avoid a catastrophe that has already started? The Doomsday Glacier. This is the big question, because Antarctica is breaking and it's not melting quietly. It's not creeping apart. We're not talking about climate change. We're talking about mechanical failure. We have cracking like an ancient structure that is under stress. And now the question is, I have reported about this to you, the Doomsday Glacier, the Thwaites Glacier. They came up with an idea now to stop that, but will that work? Because deep in the frozen reaches of the South Pole, the ice, the size of a small country, this is how large this is. It's not just retreating, it's shivering with earthquakes at a very certain spot. And we're not talking about tectonic earthquakes here. It's splitting with fractures and it's shedding massive chunks in violent calving events that echo like a thunder across the planet. And we have to imagine this is like shaking a big bottle of champagne, and then once the cork is out, you can't prevent it from spilling all out. And that's the problem that we're having here. You see the time lapse of the satellite images, how this monstrosity of glacier has already started to break apart with global implication. So this isn't a glitch in the climate system at all. This is a structural instability. This is the Thwaites Glacier, also known around the world for the name Doomsday Glacier. And what scientists are now seeing, these earthquakes that are deep within the glacier's causing these earthquakes, no tectonic stress or anything. Enormous cracks are widening over time. They have drilled holes deep into the glacier, put some cameras down. If you want to see that video is on the end screen. So now this suggests, all the finding, that the entire structure of this monstrosity is beginning to break from the inside out. The process has started. So what you're about to hear right now is not speculation. It's pure data and pure observations. And it's part of a global reckoning with what could be one of the most dangerous ice collapses in human history. So the Thwaites Glacier is astonishingly huge, bigger than the US state of Florida, nearly as big as Great Britain, and miles thick from top to bottom. So if we're talking about a collapse here of such a big structure, now you might understand why I said global implications. Scientists are monitoring this glacier constantly, nonstop, because it sits on land that is below sea level, and that makes it especially unstable. Portions of the Doomsday Glacier are becoming unanchored from the seafloor, unanchored, leading to stretching, fracturing, and sudden breaks. And that's the earthquakes that we're already seeing. So seismic sensors have recorded these, how it's called, ice quakes. The glacier is physically cracking under stress as it's moving and destabilizing. And we're not talking about tiny cracks. We're talking about structural failure, and every big fracture that forms brings that complete collapse risk closer. So the question that we're now reading in scientific publications is, quote, as the Doomsday Glacier melts, can an artificial barrier save it? Sounds crazy. So this Doomsday Glacier, a chunk of Antarctic ice as big as Florida and 2/3 of a mile thick, disgorges into the ocean in a remote region of West Antarctica. Glaciologists say it may be on the verge of the total collapse, which then, and that's the problem, could swamp huge areas of low-lying coastal land around the world within a very short time frame, only a few decades. So now there's ambitious plans to save it, and they're set to become an early test of whether the world is prepared to enact massive geoengineering efforts to ward off the worst effects of climate change. But I am not a fan of geoengineering, I have to tell you this. And we have scientific proof right now that we're actually going towards another ice age right now. So, of course, this glacier that is breaking is a problem, right? But let's not dive into the common hysteria that is everywhere, because we're dealing with a structure failure. So recent monitoring by unmanned submarines and satellites, along with like ice sheet modeling, suggests that the Thwaites Glacier and also its adjacent smaller, if we can even use the word smaller twin, the Pine Island Glacier, may already be in a death spiral, eaten up by the intensifying speed of warming of the powerful Antarctic circumpolar current that is washing it from underneath. So that's when researchers around the world are saying then only massive human intervention can save them. But can it? Nothing is certain. So they have published a new modeling study last week that said the risk of unstoppable retreat of the glacier may be overblown. So they think they can stop it, but they say that there's no time to waste, and they're saying we need a call for action. Especially John Moore, that works for the Lapland University in northern Finland, but also Ted Scambus of the University of Colorado, who is a coordinator of the joint US-UK International Thwaites Glacier collaboration. Yeah, that exists for that glacier, says now that the Doomsday Glacier is flowing at over a mile per year, nearly double the speed that it had in the 1990s. So what they're saying is the warm ocean current is eroding the base of the ice, is erasing it as an ice cube that would disappear like bobbing in a glass of water. So they believe that this accelerated flood is bound to continue. They say, quote, by flowing faster, the glacier pulls down the ice behind it. So while shallower ice is grinding on the bedrock and gets held back, thicker ice is less constrained and so flows faster. And that leads to more retreat, as crazy as it sounds. So some say it's too late to prevent the Thwaites Glacier collapse. Others say that we still could have 200 years left. Why is the concern so large right now? Well, that is because of recent publication of satellite radar images that have revealed that the height of the Thwaites Glacier rises and falls with the tides. So what does that tell us? Is it floating? University of California says this finding shows that the warm current is not just lapping at the front of the glacier, but it's penetrating several miles beneath the grounded ice of the glacier first, and that is causing further loosening its contact with solid rock, and that's why the height varies. So let me explain this in the most simple way possible. The scientists are basically asking one crazy question: what if we could physically stop the warm ocean water from reaching the glacier? Because that is the problem, right? But also here is the problem. The Thwaites Glacier isn't just breaking because it feels like it. It's breaking because the warm ocean water is flowing underneath already. So that water is eating away at the base of the ice like a warm water melting an ice cube from below. So glacier loses its grip to the ground, it starts sliding faster, it cracks, it produces these ice quakes, and eventually it can collapse fully. So what exactly are they proposing? They want to build a giant underwater barrier. And think of it like putting a wall in front of the glacier, but underwater basically. not on top of the ice. We have to make that clear. Underwater in Antarctica, no biggie. That sounds crazy. So the idea is to block or slow down the warm current before it reaches the base of the glacier. So imagine you have a house and cold air keeps coming through like a broken window or a space underneath the door. So instead of heating the whole house more, you fix the problem. You fix the window, you fix the space. So that's basically what it is. So fix the window where warm water gets in. One version of their plan is to build a massive curtain on the ocean floor, like anchored deep under the sea, stretching across a narrow passage in front of the glacier. So it wouldn't need to cover the entire ocean. I hope that this is clear. Basically just the choke point where the warm water is squeezing through, the space underneath the door. By blocking that flow, the colder water would then stay trapped near the glacier, and that would slow the melting at the base of the glacier. And then if the base stops melting so fast, maybe the glacier will stabilize. That's the hope. And here's the wild part. If you thought that was wild, this is wild. Another idea isn't even a solid wall. It's bubbles. You hear me right? Yes, bubbles. So they're talking about laying a long pipe along the ocean floor that releases a constant stream of air bubbles or cold water. So that bubble curtain would act like a barrier, like slowing and mixing the warm current so it doesn't directly attack the glacier. And they have already used something like this. There are companies that have used bubble barriers in harbors to contain pollution or to protect marine life. So it is working in a way. So technically we can say the concept already exists. So they would just have to scale it up massively, right? But here is the reality check of this. This would cost tens of billions of dollars. Very, very expensive. It would require a lot of ships, offshore engineering, energy supply in one of the harshest environments of Earth. So, and then it might not even fully work, right? So some scientists worry that blocking warm water in one place could just push it somewhere else and then cause a problem there. So this barrier is basically an attempt to hold one very, very dangerous glacier back together. So in simple terms, this is bold, this is expensive, and it's very controversial. But if the Doomsday Glacier collapses rapidly, sea levels could rise much faster than expected. And that's why some scientists are saying, at least we need to test it. Because once the glacier fully lets go, there's no rebuilding it. Once the cork is out completely. So we will see. I'll keep you updated on this. And in the meantime, guys, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right underneath Seattle. Fault systems that could cause a problem for Seattle sooner than everyone thinks. And I'm not talking about the Cascadia earthquake. So check out the videos here in the end screen and subscribe for more to be updated. Click the notification bell. If you want to support the channel, link is in the description. You can fill me up with coffee to keep me going to make these videos. Thanks for everyone who's supporting the channel. Being a member, click the join button for exclusive behind the scene videos about my private life. Thank you for your supers, and thank you for everyone who's watching day by day. You guys are awesome. I see you here. Bye-bye.